Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of a relationship dynamic that really flips a lot of common assumptions on their head. We're going to use these slides to map out the motivations, the structure, and, yeah, the emotional landscape of what's known as male-led cuckolding.
So let's just kick things off with a central paradox, a question that gets right to the heart of it. What if sharing a partner wasn't an act of submission at all, but was actually the ultimate demonstration of authority in a relationship? That's the wild idea we're exploring today.
All right, so first things first, we have to talk about a different kind of control. To really get what's going on here, we have to peel back the layers of all those common, sensationalized stereotypes. Okay, so let's get a really clear definition on the table. In male-led cuckolding, the phrases you really want to pay attention to are decision-making authority and orchestrating. The husband isn't just some passive bystander here. He's the architect of the whole experience, and that distinction is absolutely crucial. And this really paints a picture of two completely different worlds, doesn't it? The common stereotype, what you see in media, it's all about humiliation and losing control. But the dynamic we're actually talking about, well, it's built on the exact opposite, maintained authority and active orchestration. We are talking about two totally different psychological universes.
So, this is where things get really fascinating. Let's dig into the core psychology of this paradox. How in the world can an act that, from the outside, looks like a surrender of power actually become an exercise of it? Here's the absolute game changer. Instead of fearing a partner's potential interest in someone else, which is a pretty common fear, right? The husband in this dynamic completely reframes it. He becomes the gatekeeper. By being the one to grant permission, he takes what could be a threat to his status and turns it into this powerful confirmation of it. And you know, this authority isn't just a one-time thing. It's constantly reinforced through this really clear cycle. First, the husband gives permission. He's the architect. Second, the encounter happens. And third, and this part is so important, the cycle ends with what's often called reclamation, a really passionate reconnection that drives home the strength of that primary bond and the husband's central role in it. In this quote right here, it just nails it. The satisfaction, the arousal, it isn't coming from submission or humiliation. It's coming from the confidence and the power it takes to orchestrate a scenario that is this psychologically complex. Okay, so you might be thinking, how does something this intricate actually work in the real world? Well, the short answer is, it's not spontaneous. It requires a really robust framework of communication and crystal clear boundaries. These are absolutely non-negotiable. Success here hinges on having some really sophisticated boundaries. These rules basically create a protected space, a fortress around the primary relationship. It could be reserving certain intimate acts just for the couple, or a rule against developing romantic feelings, or even logistical stuff like where encounters can happen. These boundaries are what make the whole thing feel safe. And we have to talk about consent because it is super multi-layered here. First, there's the wife's overall consent to even be in this kind of dynamic. But then she also has to give specific, enthusiastic consent for every single partner and every single encounter. Real leadership in this context means the husband's authority is actually used to protect his wife's autonomy, never to override it. But, you know, no framework is perfect. You can't just engineer human emotion out of the equation. So now we got to talk about the single biggest emotional challenge that this dynamic intentionally invites right into the relationship. Yep, the elephant in the room. In a situation that seems almost custom-built to trigger it, how on earth is jealousy managed without completely destroying the relationship? And the approach is probably the exact opposite of what you'd think. The goal isn't to eliminate jealousy, it's to integrate it. The husband learns to feel it as just one emotion in this complex mix that also includes arousal and a sense of authority. And crucially, jealousy gets treated like data. It's valuable information that might be telling them, hey, maybe a boundary needs to be tweaked, or let's slow down the pacing. So, on top of all the internal emotional work, there's this massive practical hurdle, finding the right people. A huge piece of the husband's role is the actual work of finding, vetting, and managing third-party partners who get it, who can understand and respect the very unique rules of this relationship. Okay, so as we start to bring this all together, let's zoom out for a second. Why does understanding a pretty niche dynamic like this even matter? Well, it's because these kinds of extreme examples often shine a really bright light on fundamental truths about all relationships, even the most conventional ones. So, if you remember anything from our conversation today, let it be these key points. 1, this is a dynamic of authority, not submission. 2, its psychological engine is this paradox of control through sharing. 3, it demands elite-level communication. And 4, it gives us this powerful model for reframing tough emotions, like jealousy, as useful data. And all of that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. What can a structure that requires this much intention, this much communication, and this much trust teach all of us about strengthening those exact same things in any relationship, no matter what shape it takes? Really makes you think, doesn't it? Thanks for diving into this with me today.